Thank you, man. Those meds will help us a lot. We owe you big time.
So I've just finished Sniper Ghost Warrior 3, and I'm gonna say what I think about the game here, as always. So I'm gonna go right in and start with the negative things, and one of the first things that annoyed me about the game was the fact that there's this weird menu music that I don't like. Now, obviously, some people are gonna like this. Personally, I do not. I don't understand the language. Apparently, it's some Georgian song, and I understand that it's supposed to be in tune with the fact that you play in Georgia. When I say Georgia, I mean the country. I don't mean a state in the U.S. And so ultimately, I did not like the song. I found it very annoying, and the worst thing is that you hear it on every loading screen. So get ready to listen to this song multiple times, whether you like it or not. And if you're like me, you're not gonna enjoy yourself. The next thing that I want to mention, and that is really annoying to me, is the fact that we have super long loading times in this game. They are atrocious. I'm talking 3 to 5 minutes easily. So the loading times are really long. Maybe it's just for me. I don't have an SSD. I have a mid-range computer, so of course people with much better rigs are gonna have less problems with this. But that still just doesn't justify it for me. I've played very intensive games in terms of graphics, in terms of open world design, and just the space of the whole open world. And these loading times are just some of the really longest that I have ever seen. And it just feels horrible because you listen to this atrocious music while waiting for the game to load. And what I would usually do is turn off my speakers and use my phone to browse the internet. That was literally what I was doing while I was waiting. Also, from the moment you boot the game until the time you can actually click to start playing, you have, and that's probably something I should be complaining about because we see it often, but since it annoys me, I will mention it here as well. You just have several advertisements of the companies involved, which just take too long for my taste. But again, this is something we see over and over again, so just take it as a nitpick on the side, not a genuine criticism, because again, it's just common practice nowadays. Now, another thing that I did not like with this game was the performance. The game seems to be performing really erratically. You know, most of the time, let's say 85 to 90% of the time, it runs really well, no stutters, no problems. But then there are from time to time these moments when the game decides to stutter when I pull out the scope, for example, for a second, or just when I get in the car. You know, there are certain actions where the game will just stutter in frame rate for a moment or for a few moments, and then it's gonna run well again. And if you repeat those actions, that will not no longer be the case. So I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the engine. I don't know. I don't understand enough of it. But this performance issue that I've had with this is more intense, especially because you actually end up having crashes throughout the game as well. I think throughout my game play time, it actually crashed maybe 4 or 5 times, if not 6 times, which is very high. Of course, this is a very long game, so the times when it could crash are actually much higher. It's potentially much more often a case, but I still found it to be just too much for my taste, and they could have done a better job optimizing it there. Now, your Jeep that you get in the car, one of the two vehicles you'll be able to drive, one of the two types of vehicles, is this shitty Jeep. And that Jeep is made of paper, so don't bump into too much stuff because it will explode erratically. And also, it seems to be absolutely random, you know, how it's actually gonna take damage and how much damage it's gonna take. Sometimes this thing explodes for nothing, and sometimes you can ram into stuff, roll it around, and it's gonna be fine. So driving in this game is shit anyway, but I'll get to that. But the Jeep just feels really, really weird. I mean, I didn't have a chance to experiment too much with the truck, because you get to drive a truck on several side missions, and you're usually careful because you don't want to fuck it up and have to replay it. So that's something that I wanted to address. Now, outposts, you get to actually liberate outposts in this game. So you will play, and like in many open world games, you have your points of interest on the map. You got your outpost where you need to kill everyone, and then that outpost is liberated. And the reason why I actually stopped liberating outposts is because they seem to be reclaimed. You see, the game actually is going to recycle stuff, and in order to do so, for some missions, the outpost needs to be hostile. If you've reclaimed it, if you have claimed it before, you go in there, there's no opposition, the mission is going to be too easy. So I do get it partially, but then why make it possible for me to take him at any time? I mean, yeah, they should just give me some that are at all times, and some should be like locked off for missions. I don't know. That's just one of the ideas. They could have done a better job here. It's just frustrating to take an outpost and then have the outpost just literally you are like roaming a little bit because it's an open world, it's sandbox game partially, and you want to roam around, you want to do and explore some, and you see an outpost, it looks like a good challenge, you go in and you spend half an hour maybe if you want to be really tactical and stealthy, and then you're like, okay, I've had enough roaming, let's go with the next mission, and the next mission turns out to be exactly in that fucking outpost, and that actually happened to me. So I gotta go and reclaim the same outpost a second time. But what do you know, due to the recycling, this happened 2 more times. So the same outpost I had to free, I think 4 times throughout the game. Well, I didn't have to. I mean, I did it once on my own, out of my own volition, and then 3 times throughout the game for missions. But okay, I digress. So another thing that was really funny is that I liberate an outpost. There are these automated turrets. And although the outpost is now liberated, it's essentially mine. The turrets turn around, they kill me. So I had to load a checkpoint. But luckily the checkpoints are mostly very fair, so that won't be that big of a deal. Now, another thing is that we have really dumb AI. So the guys are, basically this game, it's called Sniper, and obviously the game wants you to be stealthy, wants you to eliminate targets from afar usually. You do have the option to go in guns blazing though, and you do have automatic weapons, that's your secondary weapon. You have a hand pistol. And your handgun, you know, obviously is, you can silence that as well. You can even go for the automatic weapons, but it's not that effective when you silence them. Because if you're going to go close range, you're probably not going to care much about silence and being stealthy. Although if you do, you might prefer to use your handgun like I did in most cases. But sometimes you're discovered and you got to defend yourself. They storm you, then it's much smarter to pull out an MG or some kind of machine gun and defend your position that way. And this is where you notice the AI's weaknesses, because this game is not designed for this kind of gameplay. They tacked it on, it's an option, because obviously they don't want to leave it impossible, you know, they don't want to give you just sniper rifle and say, alright, they're coming at you, shoot close range with sniper rifle. But the bots actually are not designed to, well, the bots, you know, the enemy AI is not designed to work this way, because they will just storm you like idiots and die. I literally lied down in a small room or something like that, a container I think, and the whole map just started coming at me slowly. And I had the upper hand because my gun's already pointing at them. As soon as they start appearing to try to go inside the room, you know, they get gunned down. And they were just coming one at a time, maximum 2 at a time, super easy kills with a big weapon like mine for close range. And I just liberated the camp by just lying there and shooting at the dumbasses who were coming. And the worst thing is, they were encouraging each other to come. Not a single one threw a grenade at me or something. That would have been a real problem. I would have had to evacuate the place. And that wouldn't have been so hard for them to, you know, to do, because they had angles at which they could throw grenades. And while I was outside, they do throw grenades. They use more darts than you. But the grenades are a fairly rare situation. Yet still, like I said, the AI just did not behave very well. And in general, they seem to be kind of confused, you know. 2 guys are sitting next to each other. You snipe one of them. And most of the time, the other one's gonna get confused, which is funny because that's literally the worst to do it. They don't go into alarm mode 90% of the time. They are confused and they investigate why their buddy just dropped dead in a puddle of blood and half of his skull flew out of his head. You know, so that's very funny, because I would understand if it was some kind of really quiet thing. But when you, I mean, I'm not a specialist at this, but I've watched enough videos to know that these things, these sniper rifle bullets, when they hit anything, including a human being, it's not absolutely quiet, you know. There's always a noise, especially when I shoot someone with a metal helmet and I penetrate the metal helmet. This is gonna make a ding sound, you know. These are soldiers, they're professional fighters, and they should be able to recognize when there's actually sniper fire at them. I'm just complaining about this so much because what is essentially happening is, I'm shooting this guy, and then his friend is like, hey, you okay, and goes a little bit closer to him, pokes him a little bit. And this whole exchange is going to give you between, let's say, 3 and 5 seconds before this guy actually decides that there's someone shooting at him. And this feels to me like it's too much. I don't want to say that the game needs to be harder or something like that. And now all I'm saying is that this particular instance where this happens, I mean, I do understand when, for example, you shoot close to someone and he's just confused at the first moment what happened, because it could be many things. Unless the bullet hits literally next to his head, or wall or something, he'll be able to recognize that that was a bullet. But if it just flies by, that most of the time you'll be confused what it was. So there are situations where this is okay, and there are situations where it's not. Another thing that I want to mention is the fact that we have many bugs in this game. And one of the favorite things for the Bobs to do was to try to kill me through walls. If I go in close combat, and that's again where we see that close combat just doesn't work that well in this game, they won't. I'll be shot from the side, and I look at it, and I see a gun hanging out through the wall, and there's this bot. He's literally shooting me through the wall, and I shoot back, and I shoot his hands, which are clipping through the wall as well, and that kills him. And this happened several times, not just at one particular wall. They were doing this multiple times. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened several times. And that is frustrating because one of them I died. And it's totally unfair, and everything that's unfair just shouldn't be this way. It's annoying the player. If you want to buy stuff, just the buying stuff UI is uncomfortable for me personally. And it feels, and that is definitely the case, that it's been designed with consoles in mind in the first place. It just doesn't feel like it's good enough. The game doesn't teach you many things, so you gotta figure it out. You gotta see indications and stuff. It's not too difficult, but at first I wasn't sure if there was a single button to refill my bullets, and it's not quite that way anyway. You need to first click on bullets and then press F, for example. It's not just like you could press F and refill automatically sniper rifle bullets. And you have many different types of bullets, and they're often just described with their technical names, like just numbers, and that is something that might confuse many, and it did confuse me as well. I mean, I like guns, but I'm not a gun nut, so I honestly admit that I was at times not sure which bullets were the right ones for my sniper if I build them, because you can actually craft, and crafting generally is crap, but I'll get to that as well. So another thing that is gonna annoy you is the fact that you'll often find yourself out of ammunition for your main weapon. And not just for your main, especially at the beginning of the game. You will never really get that much in terms of ammunition. By the end game, I'd say you get some better weapons where you can have up to 3 clips on you with about, I think it was 60 bullets in total, which is a lot. But throughout most of the game, that was not the case, and it was quite frustrating because you shoot, and suddenly you're out of bullets and you're doing really well, and now you gotta either break stealth or I don't know what. And you have suppressors in this game. They will get damaged and destroyed, but it's easy to refill them. So the suppressors are not going to be that much of an issue. You can repair the suppressors. But there are other things that just, like I said, for example, the bullet count. You usually are going to be low on bullets, especially at the beginning of the game, and that just frustrated me quite a bit. Another really strange decision was the fact that we have a very mixed quality of the voice acting performance. The main character's voice acting is actually really good. It's excellent. It's what you would expect. But the side characters, all of them, so the sluts which walk around with you, who are supposed to be like really good, and one of them is like an ex-girlfriend of yours and stuff, they're atrocious. And I mean really, really bad voice acting. So bad that I would actually go as far as to claim that it sounds like amateurs, like they ran out of money and they decided to call their girlfriends, wives, and friends and whatnot to do the voice acting.
We have to find her before the society does.
First, we need to find out who this Black Widow is.
Ina Zakarayan.
The woman from Kazori? The bride?
That's the one. Where is he?
I've never heard of anybody named Flostov. Fuck! It fucking hurts! Stop!
Flostov! Dr. Sergei
Raquel.
Flostov.
And I literally mean it. At one point, something bad happens to the main character, and the main character is distraught. He's angry, he's sad, and this female is trying to calm him down, and that is the worst voice acting I've ever heard. Not only does it sound fake, but it almost sounds like she's making fun of him, which she isn't in this case, but it's just so bad that it sounds like it's sarcastic. It's just atrocious. I'm actually suspecting that because of the accents that I'm hearing, I'm actually suspecting that these might actually be real Georgians that they hired. Also, the males were doing really bad. Although some of them just sound like they're faking accents, but some of them sound like they have genuine ones. So, it's really hard to tell, but in any case, side characters, horrible voice acting, so it was really bad. The kill cam, which you get when you fire at someone from really far, you know, this bullet time where you follow the bullet and you see it hit someone. Now, that kill cam obviously is not going to show you the x-ray stuff like in another sniper game you might remember, but it still is very cool. It's going to show the heads, kind of the skull fly out and stuff. It's interesting. It's not nearly as good, but it is quite interesting. But the funny thing is that for some reason, this game has a problem with collision detection of bullets. What happens is that the kill cam shows it even in slow motion how your bullet actually does not hit the guy. So it flies next to him, above his head, and he still gets, his head pops up like a, like it got blown up like a melon, although you never hit him. And that is actually hilarious. I think that's really funny, but I don't know if it's because I am a shit shooter at times and the game just, compensates for me and just is like, okay, let him have this one. I really doubt that's the case, though. I actually just think that the game bugs out in these moments, and that's why we see the bullet go wrong. The bullet should hit, at least from what I saw. And you do have this indication on your screen which tells you around exactly where to shoot to hit the targets. And sometimes this indication bugs, and instead of being where it's supposed to be, it goes like down several centimeters, and it shows you need to shoot somewhere where you don't. So you follow it, you shoot there, and the bullet just flies around, through the air like a fly without a head. It's crazy. So they're bugs, and some of these bugs are gonna piss you off. Others are just gonna be hilarious, and not to mention clipping and other stuff like that. Crafting in this game is crap, and I found it absolutely useless. I prefer just buying everything. It was just easier in most cases, faster, and since I cannot sell stuff, I could craft more than I need. For example, I have a rifle, and I craft, and my rifle can hold 20 bullets. That's the maximum capacity I can walk around with. That's at the beginning, that's not so far from the truth. Probably was that way exactly, but I'm just making up as I go right now because I don't remember the exact numbers. So I have the rifle, 20 bullets capacity, and I can craft now. And I decide, okay, at the beginning especially, I didn't realize that I couldn't just carry another clip with me. I couldn't just craft more bullets. So I craft 60 bullets. And now I have, the 20 in the rifle and 60 crafted. But these 60 it's like they disappeared. They're there, but I'll never be able to use them for some reason. Well, after I shoot my 20 bullets, I come back home. It's not like this refuels automatically or something. I still gotta craft again or buy. I don't know what happens with these. It's like the materials are wasted. Unless I did something wrong and never learned it, which is not impossible. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Please let me know in the comments. But that's how it was for me, and I found that really weird. But crafting all in all was pointless for me. I didn't find any use, especially for most of the gadgets are just, extras which you will not need. The game just isn't that complex. It doesn't give you many possibilities to. For example, you have a tugs device. A tugs device is basically a device that you put on the ground as a sniper, and it beeps and it shows you if there's anyone in the vicinity. Like it recognizes someone's trying to come from behind you and stuff. People who've played Battlefield, for example, will be able to remember this device very well. And you have this here. However, normally when you're sniping, you're pretty far from your targets. There has never been a case where someone snuck up behind me. They're not that smart. If you do raise the alarm, you straight out see them coming in a single file line and going around the mountain and starting to climb around if there's a possibility. If there's not, they're just gonna stand and shoot from afar. And what is really crazy is you can be as far as you want, and there can be guys with AKs down there 300 meters away. These guys are gonna hit you. So they're really precise. That's something that really seems off as well. That just you as a sniper can't kill them as fast as they kill you when they see you. You know what I mean? Yeah, probably. I don't know how it would be in real life, but it just seems unlikely that they'd be that precise when they shoot, especially with a weapon which has that much recoil. But okay, I digress again. So crafting is crap, like I said. I did tell you that the outposts get retaken for the story events, and therefore you need to replay them. But I did mention also that you have location recycling, but I want to go deeper into it. You see, it's not just the outposts. Sometimes you will actually have to visit a new location, and that location is still gonna look just like another one that you've already seen, okay? The game actually has several different maps. One is like a winter map, one is like with just a classical jungle map, and I think another one's more tropical, but not much. Just quite a bit different from the first one, but you get my point. So you have different settings like that, and what's really curious is that throughout these settings, you go to a power plant in the first map, then you go to a different facility in the second map, and that facility looks from the layout pretty much the same. The rooms inside look the same, from outside looks the same, has an elevator in the same place. They just like to recycle assets, and when you recycle something that is this big and this monumental in the game for two large missions that are usually main missions or side missions, you won't really make that much of a difference. The main missions, the side missions. This game is very repetitive in terms of gameplay. You go from A to B, you pull out your drone, you recognize where all the guys are, you tag them, and then you start shooting until they either recognize you or notice you, or you've cleaned the place, and then you go and either scan something or rescue someone, and that's gonna be every type of mission. Even the last mission is essentially the same. So yeah, but this with the gameplay where the missions are similar. You are playing a game called Sniper. What do you expect? You're not gonna fly a jet. So that's not something that I'd be angry about. But the recycling of the places is a bit too much for me personally. Also, that because the places really look similar. So it's something that they should have worked more on. Driving is generally bad. I told you it's really bad. But the thing is that they don't offer you any kind of worth for your driving. You don't get more vehicles. There are other vehicles that look different from yours, but they either give you a prompt that it is locked so that you can't access it, or they just give you nothing. It's like an inactive object on the map. But you can never drive anything outside of your own car and a truck, a generic truck, which you will steal supplies with and stuff. And it's not the same truck, it's just different trucks, but they're all looking the same. It's the same model of a vehicle that you do for several different missions. So 2 vehicles, that's it. But I understand that this game is also obviously not about driving, but they could have tried to at least make it a bit more interesting by adding a few more vehicles, maybe a few hidden vehicles, something that's fast, something that's more exciting to drive. Driving is bad in this game, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't have brought a little bit of variety just to make it feel like it's more interesting. The story that we're dealing with here is nothing worth mentioning. It is actually quite boring, and there are quite a few Deus Ex Machinas in there. Now, if you don't know what that is essentially when the writer of a story puts himself in a corner, and now either the protagonist should actually die or something should happen that you don't want. And so for him to be able to get out of this corner, he just conjures up a magical way to change the story, something that usually wouldn't happen. Just as an example, that's a really stupid example, but in Lord of the Rings, when the guys were caught and about to die, suddenly magical eagles came and grabbed them and flew off with them. And these eagles only carried them to a certain distance instead of carrying them to the ultimate location where they need to be, because the movie would be over too fast, or the book, that for that matter. But so this happens in the game, your character is in trouble, something bad happens, and then suddenly there's like a magical, super lucky thing that happens that changes everything and that explains everything. Also, your character is kind of a dumbass. Some events happen which are so obvious that you're gonna be screaming, "This is what's gonna happen. I know this is happening," but your character is the only one who doesn't see something so obvious. He's falling for the same trap, he's confused, he doesn't see it coming. Crazy. It's just crazy, and it made me feel like screaming out loud at the display, because my character is not a bad guy. He actually, in most cases, acts really properly. He helps some of the rebels there, and they kind of start constantly asking for his help, and he does get annoyed. Things like, the rebels are some amateurs, they're some normal civilians, and they try to do some kind of infiltration. They get caught, and then they call you, and they're like, "Oh, our best guys are caught. They're 2 farmers that we send on a covert mission," and everyone's like, not everyone, but your character just responds by, "Well, that's what happens when you send amateurs to do a covert mission." And he's kind of annoyed by this too. So this is done very well. I approve of that. But there are times when he just doesn't act accordingly, and that time I was a bit annoyed. All right, so they put very little attention to detail in many ways. For example, you go in one of those poor Georgian villages on the map that is like that is very similar to a winter map. You have snow all over the place and stuff like that. And the thing that you will notice is that there's a small market with a stand with different kinds of summer fruit, also tropical fruit. These people are supposed to be super poor. It's all during a war and blah 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 stuff like that. You get my point, you know, this just makes no sense that in the middle of winter there'd be a stand with such expensive fruits in a place that's ravaged by war and everyone has no money and stuff like that, you know, just really poor, etc. So stuff like that, of course, pulls you a bit out of the story because you see it and you're like, this makes no sense. In another place, there was a woman cleaning some kind of a house. They're supposed to be poor again, but this house looked pretty decent. But okay, maybe I'm nitpicking about that part, but the part with the fruit really annoyed me. So they didn't pay enough attention to the details. Another thing that I want to mention is that climbing is horrible in this game. So you get to climb stuff, okay? But climbing can only be done at specific locations. Think like, for example, the new Tomb Raider games. There are special locations with markings in the rocks. However, unlike in the Tomb Raider games, these markings in the rocks are almost invisible. They're very, very minimalistic and you really gotta be careful when you look in order to find them. Which led to me not being able to find, many times when I want to climb to an elevated location, I would fail at it. I would not be able to find that how to get up there and I'd just go to another place and do my own thing. And this is of course bad. If you're gonna give me a mechanic, make it so I can actually use it. Several times I also died because I assumed there is no climbing section. I tried to climb by using the good old Skyrim method where I just jump against the wall till I reach the top, but this doesn't work very well here. So climbing sucks. Climbing in this game absolutely blows. So it's something that they should have really put more love into, made it more obvious, and made the animation more fluid. It just feels like you're teleporting from rock to rock partially. It's really weird. Alright, so the next thing I want to address is that some snipers that you can buy, because you can buy different models of weapons, some sniper rifles have no suppressors. And they're, you know, especially the 50 cal anti-material rifle ones, which makes sense, of course, because you can't suppress this thing. Now, let's think about this honestly and see why this is a problem. You see, the game, most of the missions in the game are actually not restricting you in terms of whether you want to go loud or you want to go stealth, but there are a few which do. And you're never told early on. Your first objective is always go to the camp, infiltrate the camp, and then it's like do this, do that, remain undetected, kill all these guys, for example. And suddenly you have a problem because your sniper rifle is no longer silenced, you know, because that's actually what happened to me. I bought a really nice rifle. I wanted to try it, so I took it with me for that mission, and then I figured out I was not allowed to raise an alarm, and of course I did it because I didn't pay attention like a dumbass, and I had to start over from the base. You know, I had to go back to base because the last checkpoint is when you actually reach the camp, so you gotta go one checkpoint back or just drive to your base and change the rifle again, which kind of sucks. You know, in a stealthy game, I know it doesn't belong there, but this is not a realistic game. I think we'll all agree on that, considering how much bullshit there is in it. And therefore, I think that all the weapons should generally have suppressors, at least in terms of sniper rifles. But again, that might be nitpicking. Some of you might not agree with me, and that's fine. After all, nobody forces you to buy them. It kind of tells you that there is no suppressor for this available to buy. But, you know, when they put it there, I always feel like I have to have it. I'm kind of a completionist. Okay, so next point I want to address is that the game is buggy. I actually got stuck in the game several times. One time I fell through the map. Like I said, clipping issues where I got killed through walls. So there are bugs. They're not that many. They're not that bad, and nothing game breaking, luckily. And the checkpoint system works well enough to, if you do die because you fell through a map or you got stuck or something like that, you don't have to spawn too far from where you were in time and in position, which is good. Swimming is available in this game, and that's great because I was kind of always afraid at first before I entered the water. I didn't know if I could swim. However, they made something very bad. So now you have your stamina bar where you run, where you aim with your sniper and hold your breath. This is your stamina bar that's being used. It is also used for breathing, well, not breathing, but holding your breath underwater. So it does make sense that when you swim faster underwater, you'll be able to hold your breath for less time, because that's your heart rate goes up and stuff like that. Actually makes great sense. However, this mechanic is very flawed in the game, because what happens often is mechanically you will swim fast, you need to take air, and you go above water. And what I do is I keep holding shift to swim fast over the water so I can still cover as much distance as possible. And I forget that actually you don't need air as in other games. You don't have an air gauge. It's just your stamina is air at the same time. And by continuing to swim fast, I deplete my stamina to 0 again. And then I think to myself, okay, I've taken a breath. Now I can go back underwater again. I dive, and immediately I start to drown, and I actually do drown. And I was confused as to what happened. And then I realized you have 1 stamina bar. That means if you want to refill it when you go over, above the surface, you actually have to stop moving completely or move really slowly, not swim fast, so that your stamina fills up, and then you go underwater again. And you either move slowly or fast, that doesn't matter, but above water you must take a break, not just air, but also a break. That's something that we're not used to in games. I think it's bad because that example I gave you is just idiotic to begin with. It's just so far from realism. No matter how exhausted I am, if I go above water, take a few deep breaths, fill my lungs with water again, with air again, not water, and then dive again, I will not immediately die from having no breath. I'll not immediately drown. That just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So that's not a good mechanic. So I've been shitting all over this game for what is this, half an hour now. I'm gonna go through the positives quickly. There are less than the negatives, but there are quite a bit of them as well. So first thing I want to mention is that this is a very long game. It took me a very long time to beat it. I didn't time it, so I can't tell you exactly how many hours, but it is a long game. So you're gonna get your money's worth in terms of invested time to finish the game, that is. Now, I like that when you level up, because you have a leveling system, it depends on how you play, similar to, for example, how was it in Skyrim. You have, you have your sniping skills, you have your stealth skills, and you have your warrior skills, which are for close combat and stuff like that. And depending on your type of gameplay, you're going to get different points. And of course, your sniper skills will be the easiest to fill up. I actually had upgraded everything at the end of the game, and had, I think, 34 skill points that are unused, which probably would have been close to enough to buy all the skills again. So you can imagine how many sniping skills I got, and I didn't go for all the points of interest. So as you go there, you get some skill points for that too, because you have to do certain things. I didn't manage to max out the other skills, but almost. And all in all, I do like that the game adapts how it rewards you depending on how you play. If you want to make certain skill points, you need to play in a certain way, and that way the game forces you to get out of this monotonous way of playing just one specific type of character. So that's good. And I did like that there are interrogations in the game. They are actually useful. You can interrogate people and they will tell you stuff, especially missions where you need to find someone. Just interrogate someone and they'll tell you where in the camp it is, that person is. So that does help. I did like that you do have a feeling of superiority. You're hidden somewhere. You're killing these poor bastards 200 meters away. They have no idea what's happening. And it's a pretty cool feeling. So if you like playing snipers in different games, and if you like this feeling of being a predator, this game is definitely going to work well for you. I love the stealth in the game. It's a bit too easy, and that's exactly my kind of game. I don't like when a game is too challenging. I do like such games, but for shooters and stuff, I do like the games to be fairly easy, so that I can relax and just enjoy myself. And the stealth in this game works really well. I don't really like how it works when you try to go close to someone and stab him in the back and stuff, but all in all, I did enjoy that a lot. The protagonist has a great voice actor, like I've mentioned before, so he talks in a good way. He's interesting to listen to, and you have fast travel. Fast travel also teleports your car. So if you appear somewhere or your car just gets stuck somewhere, you could fast travel and your car will be unstuck that way. That's a good thing. Some of the points of interest on the map, and I didn't do that many, but I did like maybe 12 to 13 points of interest altogether throughout my play. I didn't pay them much attention, and out of them, like 3 maybe were interesting. For example, there was this one that I remember. You have like this ruin, and in the middle of the ruin there are a few cases with something inside, some minor rewards. And as you approach the ruin, you're gonna notice there are a bunch of people on the ground dead, shot. So you're like, what happened here? Naturally you're gonna wonder what happened. And then suddenly you get a sniping indicator that someone's aiming at you. So before they take a shot, you lie down and you hide behind the ruin, and someone starts taking shots at you with their sniper rifle. So that's actually it. Someone placed something there made himself a nice ambush and placed a bait and is baiting people and just doing target practice on real people. And that is so original. That kind of feels like some psycho would do that. So that I like that. I enjoyed that. That was a point of interest with thought in it. And I had to scan him with my drone, find him, and then counter snipe him, which wasn't that hard. But my point being that it is interesting. They put thought in it and they made it. Not all of them are like that, unfortunately, but you know, there are a few out there which are more interesting than others, and that was pretty cool. I did mention the kill cam is cool. It never gets old. You see it a million times. It's always kind of cool. The game, all in all, actually does feel fun to play. And you get, for example, your sniper stats, which matter a lot. For example, your weapon. When you have a weaker sniper rifle, some of the really big enemies that are heavily armored, they need at least 2 headshots to die because they have really heavy helmets as well, for example. And later on, actually, even with the toughest snipers, I did manage to kill some, like the last guys without 2 shots in the head. In most cases, they didn't die unless they got 2 shots. But if I use the weaker sniper, it actually took me more. So the stats of the sniper rifles do matter to some extent. And that is pretty cool. You know, I do like more than cosmetic changes when I play these games. So, yeah, I've seen reviews of this game in the past. Before I played it, this time I was too curious. And I saw people were really pissed about it. They did not like this game. They had huge expectations that were disappointed. And I have to say, I don't see why. First of all, the series has never been a masterpiece series. I can't think of a Ghost Warrior game that was awesome ever. They were all, you know, average games. And I actually think that this particular instance of the game is a step up. I would have preferred if it had offered me individual levels that are big and open, but so I don't have to travel from mission to mission and stuff. But I do see why they went this way. They want a somewhat longer game. They want the game to feel like it offers more content. It was not necessary because it doesn't work well, but it was still a good game. Ultimately, it's not a masterpiece. It's not an awesome game. And as you've heard, it's full with flaws, but you know, many games are like that. I still enjoyed it. It was still fun to play when it played well, and I can still recommend it to people. Perhaps wait for the price to drop a little bit if you're not in a hurry to play it, if you're not a huge fan of the series, or if you're not a huge fan of playing a sniper and playing stealth games. But I personally love exactly these two things because stealth and sniping go so well together. And yeah, this was not nearly as bad a game as people make it out to be, and I think it deserves to be given a fair chance. But you have to have realistic expectations. The series has never been a masterpiece series. There has not been one of these games that was awesome. So for us to be disappointed is just not a realistic reaction. You should just say, yeah, it's a little bit better than the others, but has many problems. It's still an average game, but I did have fun. That's exactly how I feel, at least, about it. And I feel like it deserves a good chance. And if you guys are curious, go get it and let me know if you liked it. Thanks for watching my review. I hope you enjoyed it and you'll take a look at my other ones. Have a great day.